so much. Thanks for that introduction. Firstly, thank you to Melinda for all the efforts in bringing all of us together. It's such a wonderful opportunity to meet people who are interested in DH, who are interested in digital cultures, working on the international humanities. So we're looking forward to yesterday. So for my talk today, I thought through the attestations, collaborations, and connections, I thought I'd add another term, which is context of reach. And I think when we've been talking about digital humanities so much, about what it means, what is the definition of the term, what is the scope of the field, and I think all along it's also felt the need to sort of engage really in the Indian context and understand what digital means for us in India, what is really Indian practice. So, yeah, I'm not claiming to say that I'm going to actually offer any answers to that question. It's of course something that we need to see later. But this is really just an attempt to try and locate some of those contexts digital humanities and broadly humanities practice in, of course, the digital term has been taking place in the last so the discourse around field of digital humanities in India has emerged as an interesting where digital has been the focal point of several changes in government's policy, industry, education, media, and creative practice in the last couple of years. Higher education in general and arts and humanities in particular has seen a significant transformation during this pandemic. There was also an alleged humanities crisis due to issues ranging from declining funding and concerns of relevance and employability, as well as widespread conflict related to equity, access, and quality of education. Growth of fields like digital humanities, digital cultures, and cultural analytics, cultural informatics, in this context of digitalization, signal several shifts in scholarship, pedagogy, and practice, projecting a futuristic imagination of the role of technology in education and creative practice and environment, but also reflecting persisting challenges related to the digital divide, and specifically the politics around growth and sustenance of humanities. A specific criticism of the more recent debates around the origin story of the emerging field of digital humanities in India, as well as Anglo-American training, drawing upon history and humanities computing and text research, and located within a larger global imagination of the university of Bangalore. Even as we've seen increasing efforts to address these issues of representation, diversity, and critical reflection in emerging initiatives around the world, it is imperative to trace where efforts within India have been speaking to such concerns within the global discourse as well. As we've seen so far, has been centered around two key processes or concepts, that of digitization or the creation of corpora cultural content enabled by the availability of the internet and digital technologies, and the need for new methods and tools to work or study, to work with them or study with. These conversations have largely organized around two thematic areas of work within digital humanities and related digital practice in India, which also find resonance with more global concerns, namely the creation of digital corpora in the form of archives and repositories, and the advancement of digital technologies and methods of research, or more specifically, through the development of digital pedagogy. The context of these thematic areas are, however, much wider, located in long-standing efforts in digitization, digital literacy more broadly, which is still fraught with several kinds of challenges, both technological as well as cultural. This is not to preclude, however, other forms and trajectories of digitalization in the humanities that can be traced to material histories of reading, writing, and making, to name just one. The question of access to these efforts, therefore, also emerges as an important one, given that digital humanities work is still located within selected spaces in the world, privileging as a result the university as a space for digitally mediated humanities practice. Importantly, this growth of digitally engaged humanities practice raises pertinent questions about how exactly the digital turn is transforming humanities, its practice, and politics. It also serves to explore whether we need to renew our modes of engagement with the idea of the humanities, to understand where, as the scholar DHAI writes in an unpublished piece in a forthcoming volume on exploring DHAI India, which is edited by IIM. We need to rehabilitate, and I'm paraphrasing here, rehabilitate and resuscitate humanities disciplines. And she traces this really due to its colonial and latterly grammatical underpinnings, and acknowledge the gaps we have in terms of infrastructure and archival work to build this new humanities. So, drawing upon excerpts from a study on mapping digital humanities that I did, and ongoing conversations on digital cultural archiving practices, this talk really hopes to discuss some pertinent concerns emerging in the field, particularly with respect to the growth of digital corpora and its intersections with teaching learning practices in arts and humanities, including the need for more efforts in bridging the two by developing more critical approaches to understanding the digital. So, tracing histories of the digital media. As mentioned earlier, the field of DH has developed at a point where the digital has become seemingly ubiquitous in our everyday lives, and in public and national imagination, given also initiatives like digital media. There is, however, still something novel about the digital, and its coming together with the humanities presents itself as an important historical moment. But then, have the humanities always been digital? Exploring DH, therefore, also means unraveling longer intertwined histories of the humanities and technology that remains unexplored, especially in terms of locating it in the post-colonial, the global, and the local, for a better understanding of what the trend is, as a medium, as context, as a tool, how it works in simultaneity with the annual, and has been informed by longer histories of science and technology, infrastructure, nation building, and governance. I borrowed here some thoughts from a panel at a conference on post-colonial digitization practices that I was part of recently. This is at Hello, Germany. So the panel had a lot of interesting and intriguing questions about just understanding the idea of the digital itself and its intersection with the humanities, and particular sort of challenges in practice and research with the digital. And these are some of the questions that I took away, which I would summarize as one is trying to understand the digital as history. Does the digital disrupt the linear post-colonial narrative? Does it continue to re-entrench or perpetuate colonial legacies? Secondly, digital as development. What is the idea of the digital that emerges in these narratives of nation building, community formation, preservation? From here also questions of citizenship and governance. And finally, the digital as material culture, which is really how we've also been exploring a lot of facets of digital. And are we doing this with an intersectional lens? How is our work and study of the cultures of the digital informed by an intersectional lens of Dalit feminist writing, queer writing, where does it draw upon work in Indian languages, or address questions of access and accessibility? So this is just some writing that we did on this is a DHAI website, the WordPress blog. And this is something that my colleague Sumandro and I wrote up on, just some thoughts on DH and what we thought.
So would you like to read it, because this likes a little.
Right. So yeah, I think the highlighted portion is really what I wanted to focus on as really the thematic of what we want to talk about today, which is really a renewed engagement with the politics of humanities knowledge. Not a definition of DH really, but what we thought, and at that point when we wrote this up, what we felt amongst DH for us. Digital humanities suggests various forms of engagement with the digital by humanities scholars and practitioners, including developing software, creating new tools and methods for research and practice, producing and reorganizing archives, building theory, and rethinking pedagogy, all of which may allow one to study and work with the digital more critically from the perspective of the humanities disciplines. So I will move on to the two key areas that I thought, that I still feel seems to be emerging as key focus areas for digital humanities work in India. One is, of course, digitization, and from there, I think the work is squarely located within archives or broadly dynamic spaces in India. So, digitization and the archival turn. Archives and archival practice have emerged as a key thematic of early DH work in India, as in several other parts of the world, given the importance of pre-existing corpora of material located in state archives, repositories, and private collections in doing digital humanities research and practice in the post-colonial context. As a result of which, a large part of DH work has drawn significantly from digital archiving, more recently, digitization of cultural heritage and community archiving practices. The archive has always occupied an important place among formal knowledge institutions in India. The state archives are remnants of a colonial legacy. As much revisionist literature around archives in India illustrates, they existed to validate and serve colonial power. This is Balaji and still continue to function within a similar mandate of control over narrative and interpretation. The decolonization of the archive, therefore, has become imperative to understand how histories are produced in terms of interrogating its colonial legacy, questioning the commodification of the archive, and recognizing that the seemingly neutral Western criteria and classifications are in fact tools for maintaining the role of an archive as an imperial project of domination and affirmation. So this again I'm quoting from International Online, it's a French publication on museums and galleries. So fields such as digital humanities and cultural analytics draw significantly from digitization and archival work, as research and practice depend upon access to pre-existing corpora, and importantly on the diversity of their use in academic contexts and creative practice. The digital turn, in fact, has led to a significant change in the nature and scope of cultural archives today. Along with advancement in methods of preservation, storage, curation, and dissemination, there are also several challenges in working with digitized or born digital content, especially those related to access, infrastructure, and language. Importantly, the creation and use of digital cultural archives is also dependent on navigating new ways of using digital tools and understanding its role in reading the archive through scholarship, pedagogy, and practice. The digitization of existing corpora of cultural content, whether located in state archives, repositories, or private collections, is an important component of such archival initiatives. Over the last decade or so, however, with the digital turn and the advent of the internet, where tools like the smartphone and social media have fostered a culture of sharing, there has been a growth of several personal archives, leading to a shift from this existing model of archival practice as a state-driven activity. This has also led to the development of several open, distributed, networked, and collaborative archives, as well as a diversity in modes of documentation and usage of cultural content, whether for research, pedagogy, or practice. The concept of the archive has also therefore shifted from referring primarily to a repository space to an interpretive one, where new forms of knowledge are produced. The discourse on digital cultural artifacts therefore offers several theoretical concerns and practical implications for the creation and management of digital cultural archives. So these include, along with the opportunities for advancement in methods of preservation, storage, and curation, there are also several challenges in working with digitized or born digital content, especially in the Indian context. There are specific concerns related to access, infrastructure, linguistic barriers. The process of digitization or digitalization, therefore, of archives is a complicated one. The nature of the archival object has evolved greatly today, where apart from text, images, audiovisual materials, audio histories, performance, and works of new media also come within the ambit of archival, posing new challenges to archival practice. With the rise of more niche and private archival spaces, questions of privacy, ownership, and access have also become paramount. A lot of new archival initiatives are therefore focused on developing accessible, networked, and dynamic archives to address some of these challenges. Some efforts in digitization and collection emerging in this context include state initiatives, long-running ones such as the National Digital Library, and more recent ones such as the National Audiovisual Cultural Archive at the IGNCL, or the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts, and the National Museum, which has also recently undertaken a large initiative to digitize its collections. There are also archival efforts at universities like Jaipur, University, and private, individual and collaborative efforts such as the Indian Memory Project, 1947 Partition Archive, Indian Cinema, and others. While only a few organizations have actively identified with the term digital humanities, there are many such existing digital initiatives in arts and humanities that find resonances with some of the concerns of the broader field. So, the initiatives I've named are but a few in really what is sort of a good way of digitization, I should say. A lot of gallery, museum spaces, a lot of universities also getting into sort of digitization process, digitizing their collections. So I wrote about some of this in the report, 2 or 3 of the case studies that we did. One was Vichitra, which is an online version of Rabindranath works. This is located at School of Cultural Texts and Records in Bengaluru University. And it's basically an online variant edition of the comprehensive range of Tagore's works in English and Bengali. And of course, the fascinating thing about this variant is, of course, having access to all of these works in one sort of knowledge site, as they call it, but also the collation tool that they've developed in-house, which is called Program, which helps to actually trace migrations across different editions of the works, across both languages, across various time periods. So, and this has really been one of the earliest sort of digital humanities projects as well. A second project that I've also written about in the report is Indian Cinema. Also, it's what we call its successor, Padma. So Indian Cinema is really an online open access archive of Indian films that are out of copyright. And this functions on an open access on FLOSS software called Bengaluru. It's really a desktop application for managing large collections of audiovisual content. And what the archive again offers as among several unique functionalities, really, one is of course to be able to see a lot of the metadata of the film text like this in this format, and it gives you a lot of very in-depth information on the film itself. And apart from that, also it helps you access the film through annotations, through referencing, through layering the film text with other material around it. So anything from maps, timestamps, other paraphernalia around the film text. So the next project that I just want to briefly talk about is also something that we worked on recently, which is the NCA, which is the National Cultural Audiovisual Archives at the IIT. So at CIS, we collaborated with the NCA to develop really an IPR advisory for the National Cultural Audiovisual Archives. This is really a comprehensive archive on Indian cultural heritage. This archive is, of course, on audiovisual content, so performance, dance, music, but they also will include other kinds of cultural artifacts from textiles, text, music. So, and I think as part of that process, there have been several learnings in terms of state institutions getting into digitization in India, which is also a welcome step in terms of state institutions also being open to opening up their collections, putting them online, because for the longest time, a concern has also been about who accesses the archive, who controls the narratives of the archive. Also, putting up collections like this on the internet, does that also reduce footfalls to museums, to archives, where research all over the world has shown that that's not really the case, that it actually enhances more visits to the archive, it enhances the nature of the collections, the use of these collections. So this project has presently just finished its first phase of digitization and content being made available, and content is available for viewing online, it can't be downloaded. But I think I went along on 4 field visits to 4 partner institutions that worked, that were part of this project, and there were some interesting learnings. We also made a lot of suggestions in terms of technical and cultural best practices that would come into play when we're talking about digitization of cultural heritage content. So, yeah. So primarily, I think concerns related to IPR and legal aspects of open access. So we talk a lot about open access, but there is still very little awareness of what exactly constitutes open access, CC licenses, what are the different kinds of licenses. A lot of people want to share content online, but they're not exactly sure how to do it. So therefore, there is already a reluctance, or they're afraid to be sued. So that automatically sort of prevents people from sharing content. A lot of concerns about works that, that often works that do not have identified owners, a lot of material that is rare or in different languages or in Indian languages that could not be accessed in the present. So I think all of these came up as important challenges. Digitization and archival labor, the amount of invisible labor that goes behind digital archives. I think that's something that you get to see in, of course, all the projects that we've covered so far with Chitra, with Indian cinema, all different archival projects that we've been talking about in the course of our discussions. I think there's a lot of manual and technological labor that goes behind the sort of digital interface that we find interesting. And the need for benchmarking to some extent of those archival practices. To have content in different archives, to be able to speak to each other in some way. This is of course debatable if you think of a larger sort of national benchmarking. That's something that's really up for discussion. But the idea of benchmarking, I think, really came up as one of the challenges, especially in the digitization phase. Because digitized content, again, being inaccessible because of digitization standards being a real issue. Open access to cultural data, metadata especially, and linked open data. So having your metadata, again, in an open access format, in a linked format, which can be accessible across different kinds of formats in different spaces. The role of digital curation, something called sheer curation and capacity building for the same. So sheer curation really is the idea of curation being an inherent part of the digitization process, of something that needs to be understood and thought of in the early stages of archiving and digitization itself. Greater interoperability to enable collaboration with diverse stakeholders, so interoperability of platforms, and debating a national digital strategy for GLAM institutions. So again, this is really more in terms of the GLAM sector and what are the kinds of specific challenges in that sector, and whether we do need a national strategy that would help addressing those challenges. So moving on. The need for developing a healthy discourse around digital cultural artifacts also offers several theoretical concerns and practical implications for the creation and management of digital cultural archives. The use of digital technologies in the creation and circulation of cultural artifacts also results in new kinds of archival objects, which require different methods of preservation, curation, and dissemination. Changes in format, technological obsolescence, and the manner of representation of cultural artifacts become particularly important here. Especially in the case of creative practice and works of art, these challenges can become increasingly complex given the form of different kinds of works, which include multimedia performance. Digitization also results in changed roles and forms of curation, and the idea of the curator as a custodian or guardian of the archive. More novel forms of digital curation are then crucial for material in the archive to be accessible to a wider public. This includes making the material discoverable and usable, while at the same time addressing concerns of privacy and ownership, especially in the case of content under copyright, and challenges in the notion of authorship and negotiating rights of artists and performers. New protocols of sharing and usage of different kinds of artistic works therefore need to be developed. Linguistic barriers are a key impediment in working with cultural heritage material in Indian languages, due to issues of translation, lack of optical character recognition and Unicode support for Indian language fonts. Accessibility of these platforms for people with disabilities is another crucial area of concern which must be addressed. Infrastructure and design therefore emerge as pertinent aspects of thinking about archival efforts, both at a conception and operational level. So moving on then to more broader concerns about doing humanities work in the digital context. And I would locate this, again, I think more specifically in the university, because that seems to be the natural sort of space where a lot of humanities or digital humanities work is going to be. So as illustrated in the above examples, the growth of new kinds of digital artifacts demands new kinds of tools and methods to work with them. This has also resulted in several challenges in creative practice and research, but also in everyday classroom pedagogy. Indian classrooms have transformed greatly, especially in the last couple of decades, due to the presence of the internet and access to devices such as mobile phones, and a democratization in the access to tools and software that was previously unheard of. The growth of MOOCs, smart classrooms, learning apps, publishing platforms like academia and Scalar, and the enduring presence of collaborative knowledge production spaces like Wikipedia, social media, and blogs indicates that the scope of using digital technologies in education has expanded greatly. It is important to also address here several policy initiatives following the use of ICT fully across different sectors in the late 1980s. To now, initiatives under the government's Digital India program, which have also been developed with the objective of building more advanced spaces for teaching and learning, while also addressing issues of equity access and quality. So these include, just to do a short history, the NME-ICT, the NPTEL, InfluNet, National Knowledge Network, and more recently, SWAYAM and the National Repository of Open Educational Resources. So the SWAYAM platform really, I think, is the largest sort of effort in recent times in terms of a MOOC-like platform, which is developed by the MHRD and the AICTE with the help of Microsoft. And this would be ultimately capable of hosting 2,000 courses and 80,000 hours of learning, covering school, undergraduate, postgraduate, engineering, law, and other professional courses. So that gives you a sort of the idea of the kind of scope that is being imagined in terms of online learning or bringing the internet closer to sort of the Indian classroom. So also something that I was just about yesterday. The UGC has recently, just earlier this month, approved a decision to offer certificate, diploma and degree programs in online mode in a format that is very close to SWAYAM in disciplines where it has been offering these courses through open distance learning. So this initiative is really a big step towards attaining the targeted enrollment ratio of 30% by the year 2020. Interestingly, this initiative mandates the use of Aadhaar and passports for student authentication, for assessment, and online interaction. So you can also see the connection with online learning and really sort of larger national ID systems. The recent report of the Committee for the Evolution of the New Education Policy outlines several recommendations for the use of ICTs at all levels of the sector, including teaching learning practices, remedial education, adult literacy, teacher training, and in governance and information management. The latest addition to these efforts is the MHRD's National Teacher Platform, a large open source collaborative learning platform featuring courses for teachers to enable continuous learning, resources for use in classrooms, dashboards for progress and assessment, communities for collaboration and discussions and announcements, notifications and circulars. While both these initiatives focus quite substantively on leveraging the potential of internet and digital technologies for education, especially in the light of policy initiatives like Digital India, opening up several possibilities, they are yet to address specific disciplinary concerns related to methods and concepts, with the focus remaining on tools and platforms, aiding a certain existing form of teaching learning practice. So Nishant Shah, in a piece titled Beyond Infrastructure, Rehumanizing Digital Humanities in India, notes that such policy, and I'm paraphrasing them, notes that such policy reform still falls within a rubric of infrastructure building that is geared towards addressing issues of access to education, digital literacy, unemployment and economic development, with the motive of India becoming a significant player in global information societies. He further argues that the assimilation of digital humanities within this existing discourse of the state has also led to a flattening of earlier histories of science, technology, humanities, society studies that were initiated by the state. So, Lata Mani, in a 2015 essay, notes that critical political discourse in India has largely been shaped by the social sciences. However, the instrumental thinking of this period and its bequest, the transactional nature of communication, compel us to integrate into our practice a fresh reconsideration of language and forms of representation, concerns core to the arts and humanities. With reference to her work on video poetry and a multi-genre collection, she illustrates how the exploratory sensibilities offered by these disciplines may help render lived experiences closer and positively inflect the terms of critical discourse. This offers several insights on the scope of these disciplines, and interestingly, as seen in the examples, how different forms and genres of representation may effectively contribute to new ways of thinking not only of core disciplinary concerns but critical discourse at large. The use of new media technologies, though not addressed explicitly here, is a relevant point in terms of the role they play in engendering these new modes of representation. The advent of the digital has opened up several possibilities now for different kinds of practice in arts and humanities, with the availability of a large body of cultural artifacts for digitalization, as well as the emergence of new kinds of digital objects which require new methods of study. However, there is also a need for contextualizing these changes, especially in countries like India with a persistent digital divide, where conditions of access and usage transition from analog to the digital, and the notion of digitality itself need to be defined better. What questions about the scope, context, and methods of such forms of inquiry may a field such as DH offer is an important question, as the field itself seeks to be interdisciplinary and includes within its ambit even creative practices outside academia. So the growth of a number of independent spaces of research and creative practice in arts and humanities, however, often at the margins of academia and supported by the availability of funding from government and private resources, is another aspect here that draws greatly from the affordances of new digital tools and platforms. The transition of archival practice to the digital space and the growth of such alternative or peripheral knowledge spaces would be important factors for consideration in understanding the landscape of digitalization of arts and humanities practice in India. Importantly, how do these approaches, within academia and outside, then contribute to furthering core disciplinary concerns of the humanities? What kinds of skills and expertise do they demand of researchers and practitioners working in these fields? The interdisciplinary and collaborative manner of research and creative practice that these platforms require also encourage the development of new methodologies, and DH could be a place to develop, explore, and critique these possibilities by rethinking forms of digital pedagogy. In fact, these challenges of method and scope can be extended to understanding ways of navigating and studying the internet at large, where forms of visualization, curation, search, retrieval, and analysis of information in a meaningful manner have become increasingly complex, given the vast amounts of material or data now available, but also being made invisible through forms of customization like filter bubbles and echo chambers. These processes continue to be informed by the availability and access to large databases of cultural material and the development of infrastructure, expertise, and resources that facilitate their creation and use in various ways. This brief overview urges the need to locate present debates around DH and related digital practices in India within a wider imagination of the digital and what it implies across different contexts, especially countries in the global south. For several reasons, there are various forms of scholarship and practice related to digital technologies that do not find themselves within the ambit of DH yet. This is not only because the field is still considered emergent in many places, especially outside the Anglo-American world, but also because there is a need for more critical understanding of digital technologies and their implications for the arts and humanities. Following criticism about the invasion of universities by neoliberal agendas, paving the way for more profit-driven forms of function, it is important to recognize what such a change has meant for the arts and humanities in particular, and where digital technologies play a role in realizing these mandates. In terms of policy alone, there have been significant gaps in terms of addressing the development of humanities, arts, and social science, and what role digital technologies may play in them. The NAB report offers few recommendations on arts and humanities education in detailed manner. In fact, the larger policy itself has seen some criticism for being restrained in terms of its scope. To go back a little earlier, a report published by the India Foundation for Arts in Bangalore in 2010, while offering several insights into the landscape of research in arts and humanities in India, remarks on the shifts that have taken place in these disciplines over the last 3 decades, largely in terms of a renegotiation of boundaries of traditional disciplines and emergence of new institutional structures and new interdisciplinary courses, or altogether new themes or fields of research. It identifies these shifts as a result of the way new and traditional institutions have articulated their research and funding interests based on a critique of the definition and constitution of established research practices within the domain of the arts and humanities and adapted to the need for interdisciplinarity. The report notes that UGC's existing measures and evaluation systems, as well as its funding strategies, have not adequately recognized and or responded to these transformations. Interestingly, the report mentions the importance of new media technologies and archiving practices in furthering innovative forms of research in the humanities. The NEP also devotes substantial thought to the role of ICTs as mentioned earlier, this is yet to speak of discipline-specific issues. Also, the imagination is still in terms of specific tools and platforms, like I mentioned, as aiding a certain form of teaching, existing teaching learning practice, rather than focus on what new forms of education may be developed, keeping in mind the digital environment that we now inhabit. Now, with the proposed overhaul of the higher education system through the replacement of the UGC, the AICTE with a single regulator, a strict IPR regime that continues to determine academic publishing and implications, which also has implications for quality and productivity of research and scholarship, and the use of large-scale national ID systems like Aadhaar in monitoring and assessment, the landscape of higher education is transforming rapidly. Research in arts and humanities in India and new fields like DH need to contend with these challenges of a changing digital policy and socio-political context. So, in conclusion, the above are examples of digital initiatives and emerging digital forms that in many ways speak to some of the larger global concerns about DH and outline the context and sites of the field. Yet, how much of the learnings from these practices have pervaded the discourse around DH in India remains to be explored. For there still is a need to effectively document and understand what is an Indian practice of DH within and outside the university context, which accounts for and is influenced by larger questions around the digital landscape of the country. There is a resistance to the perception of American DH as a global narrative of DH, as seen in the work emerging from different parts of the world, especially from countries in the global south, but also in strands that address concerns of gender, race, ethnicity, and accessibility within the prevailing discourse. The criticism about DH being a manifestation of neoliberal policies of the state may not yet be explicitly visible in India, but as a field that is premised on the use of digital technologies, it may soon be asked these very questions. While the attempt here is not to argue against, compare, or separate these threads, they do offer a possibility of tracing a history of objects and practices that are specific to India. Some examples of the directions that such inquiry may take are: how do we understand the digital turn in the creation of cultural repositories? Where do they challenge the norm of colonial archiving practice? How do challenges of Indian language content and tools inflect the practice of doing digital humanities in India? What are material practices of reading and writing and oral histories that we could trace as precursors to notions of digital textuality? These are but a few of the emerging entry points to this inquiry. Importantly, whether such iterations could also help form a different basis of fields such as DH, which is not only aware of the role of neoliberal agendas in the growth of the internet and digital technologies itself, but then may also offer a space to critique the same would be pertinent. These would also provide several insights into not only the growth of fields like DH or new media and digital cultures more broadly, but also help map shifting modes of research and practice in the humanities and arts in India.